Hi everybody, welcome back to, my gosh, welcome back to my YouTube channel, I guess. Yeah, it's been like a year since I've posted, but here we are. We're hosting another step-by-step painting tutorial. I'm once again live on Twitch, so if you hear me talking to a Twitch chat, answering some questions that you on YouTube don't see on screen, that's why. But for you on YouTube, I'll be teaching you, as usual, a step-by-step painting design today. You can see it beside me here. I have a nice stable image here for you to look at, but mostly you'll be looking at what I'm painting along with you. So I'm actually going to switch here to show. I have the original painting here, and then behind this I have a blank canvas so that I can paint right along with you. For those newer to my tutorials, I love to paint along with you so that you can see exactly what I'm doing while I describe it verbally. It helps to kind of see, I guess, as well as listen along. And yeah, we're just going to paint along together. So keep in mind, I do have the set design. Again, you can see it up here now. It's going to be staying up here for you to see, but you're more than welcome to change the design as much or as little as you wish. This design in particular, I feel like you could do a lot with different colors. I kind of have it at this like sunset scene with some nice pinks, some purples, some nice orange on the ground in the snow. You could stick with some blues, some greens, whatever you like. Yeah, feel free to just experiment as much as you like. In terms of supplies today, I keep it the same as usual, so I like to keep it very nice and simple to make it easy to follow along. So I only use just 5 paint colors. I have white, red, yellow, phthalo blue, and black. I'll teach you how to mix those colors into all of the other colors you see on my design, so don't worry if you don't know how to mix, I will tell you all of that. In terms of brush types, I keep it the same as usual with my 3. I have a large flat brush here. Looks like that. I like to use a medium round brush. So a little smaller, has more of a tip here, medium round. And then also a small round brush. So same thing, it's kind of a nice little thin tip, but just a lot smaller, just for small little details. I'll let you know I'm not using this one a whole lot today. You can see there's not a lot of tiny details in the painting. But yeah, good to have in case you want to like fix something up or add something a little particular to your painting. Otherwise, other supplies I have beside me include paper towel, a little cup of water just to wash off your paintbrush here and there. The canvas, of course, is a 16 by 20 canvas. That's always the size I use, excuse me. It is portrait oriented today, so that means it's longer going up and down versus across. And that's basically it for supplies. And then I always recommend, of course, wearing something you don't mind getting paint on, because there is a possibility that you might spill or wipe your brush somewhere where you don't want it. So best not to wear like your favorite sweater. I think that's about it. I guess just one more reminder for those watching along live, and even if you're on YouTube, feel free to chat amongst yourselves in the live chat or on YouTube in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will be leaving lots of time between steps for people to ask questions live, but again, if you're watching on YouTube and want to check in on something or clarify something, feel free. I always try my best to watch the comments and reply pretty quickly so that I can help you out as well. Okay, and I think that's all, so we're going to do a little quick cheers and then we'll get started. Alright, here we go. So we're going to be jumping right into our first step here, just to bring up the original painting again so we can see that along with the digital image I have up. I'm going to be starting on the top of the painting here, so this nice kind of like blue, almost blue-purple at the top. I'm going to teach you how to make a purple, blend down to the purple, and then make a nice pink, blend down to the pink. Again, if you want to change up any of those colors, feel free. You can use the techniques that I'll teach you and just apply them to your own colors. But let's start right at the top here with this kind of like dark blue-purple color. So I've got my iconic volcano plate palette. For those who don't know, this is it. Yes, I paint using this sometimes. He's semi-retired now, honestly. He's getting very heavy, so I've switched to a more light, workable palette rather than this monstrosity. I didn't mean that, I'm sorry. Anyway, you'll be seeing me using this for the paint along here. So I'm going to mix a couple different colors here. I have prepped a couple of my 5 colors that I mentioned. I have white, blue, and red here because I'm going to mix all 3 of those. I'm using my large flat brush to begin with, the nice big brush I've got. I'm going to pull a big pile of blue to an area of my volcano plate. Surely you're using a flat plate or palette yourself, just move it to one side. Move the blue to one side here, a nice big pile of blue. To the blue, I'm going to add just a little bit of red. I kind of just dipped the tip of the brush right into the red without washing it, and now I'm just going to mix it into the blue. You'll see that turns it into more of a blue-purple. I'm only using a small amount of red so it doesn't turn fully purple. I want to save the purple for our second color, so for now I'm just kind of making it's almost like a darker blue. The red will actually darken the blue a bit. And then, just to really confuse you, I'm also going to add a little bit of white as well, just a bit. I just don't want it to be like a super, super dark blue, so I wanted to lighten it up a bit with a little white. So just to repeat myself, that was lots of blue to begin with, a little red, and a little white. On that large flat brush. Okay, once you've got that mixed, here we go, first strokes. I'm just going to start right at the top of the canvas, brushing left and right, back and forth. And here's the cool thing about, I guess, most paints, not just acrylics, but you can kind of change it as you go. Maybe you did your first couple strokes, you're not really a fan of the color. Change it on your palette a bit. I'm adding actually a little more red to mine. I feel like it could be a little more purple leaning. And you just go right on top as it's still wet and change it up a little bit. So mine just darkened a little bit. That's all I did there. So from side to side, I wonder if chat's already oh, they haven't yet, surprising. Reminding me about my edges. I'm going to remind you too, if you're using a wrapped canvas like I am, you can always bring your paint around the edges. Jen, hello, I see you there. So I'm just kind of tapping along the edges here, along the top, along the sides. It's not a mandatory step. I always do point it out though. It's become a little bit of a thing that I always point out. You might notice if you start to do smaller ones. Oh, my stream just cut there. Smaller ones will leave little like brush marks within the paint. You can kind of see how it's looking uneven. To get rid of that, you just want to do a nice big solid stroke all the way across. And maybe lighten up the pressure a little bit. The more pressure you're using, the more your bristles are going to move the paint around. If you just kind of glide over top, that helps even it out as well. Aw, thanks guys. Refresh, please. Thanks all. I did see my stream kind of jump there and wondered if it actually cut out the edges. Vonda, hello as well. Am I going to cut? What's that, Vonda? Good, thanks all. So yes, for those watching along live, you may see a couple little jumps in my video feed, maybe even the audio. This is an ongoing internet issue I've been battling with. I have contacted my service provider. We're trying to fix it, but just know that I'm aware of it. I'm sorry. Feel free to call it out if you see it, chat. I appreciate that so I can relay that to my internet service provider. But just know if it cuts, you can refresh and it will come back eventually. It hasn't like cut so hard that it's ended an entire stream permanently. It just means I have to restart the stream, unfortunately. So just know that. Oh, cut the paint palette. No, I think I'm going to leave this one whole. We've already done that once. For those unaware, this is actually a part 2 to the volcano plate. We have already cut one in half. Anyway, yeah, regarding those internet issues, if you're watching on YouTube, you probably won't notice because I'll just edit those out. I'll kind of cut those gaps here and there. So just know if we're talking about it, that's why. It's just an unfortunate thing that we're dealing with right now. Okay, so we do want to move along to the next step before this dries, so I'm going to keep us rolling along here. If at any point you need to take a little more time, obviously go at your own pace. I can always catch you up, redo any steps that you may have missed, but I'm going to move along because we want to do some wet on wet blending, so using that wet paint color we just applied, along with another wet paint color that we're going to apply. So we're moving down to a nice kind of like, I wouldn't say light purple, but kind of a medium purple. It's not the darkest purple, it's not the lightest purple, it's somewhere in between. So I'm going to take that same brush, and I don't even need to wash it off because I'm going to just use the same colors again, just different amounts. I'm going to grab a bigger chunk of red this time, add it into a pile of blue. We're trying to make purple now, so we're really using lots of red in comparison to that blue. And I'm also going to add, again, some more white. The white just brightens up the color a little bit. Especially with purple and blue, you'll notice they appear quite dark on your palette. Just adding a little white will brighten it up again. So you can see that's brightening up with each small amount of white I put in there. Again, choose whatever purple you like. I'm just going somewhere in the middle. It's not a super light purple. It's not a super dark purple. Whenever you're happy with that color, you can start by applying it just below the blue. Just below. I like to apply the color first before I blend it. I know some people kind of blend as the first step. Totally fine. If you know what you're doing and you want to blend that immediately, kind of get that done, go ahead and do that. I'm going to apply my color first, and then I'll go in between and blend. So I'm applying, I would say, about the same amount. You can see about the same amount just coming further down the canvas. Oh, that's right. It's because it restarted. Oh gosh. If anyone misses anything with the ads, I can always repeat, I suppose. And again, as a reminder, if you apply a color, you don't really like it, just apply something else on top while it's still wet. You can kind of blend right on top, right into it. Artist friend of mine collects heavy use palette and hangs them as artwork. They look quirky and fun. I want to know what tools she uses, Jen, if you ever find out what she uses. Or I guess did you say she's cutting them up? I guess not. She's just hanging them fully. So she doesn't like do anything to them. She just hangs them up. I was going to say cutting was a whole process. I did that live on stream actually, and that was a whole debacle trying to figure out what tools to use, what kind of saw to use. It was nuts. Okay, and then again, not to rush along, but we do need to deal with these two colors while they're still wet. In order to blend them so that we don't have this very harsh line in these two very distinct areas, I want to just take the brush I have. You can kind of wipe it off a little if you want. Just make sure there's not like a huge glob of paint on there. If there's still some extra purple, that's totally fine. That'll actually help us here. You can take your brush and just sweep in between those two colors. And as long as they're still wet, they will blend together beautifully. Create a nice smoothed out area in between. So for this, you can see once again doing my big strokes back and forth to keep it smooth. I'm also using a bit more pressure. I find that helps kind of pick up those two colors onto the brush and then move them together and blend them together. So yeah, if you need to press down a little harder than you have been, that's totally fine. That's recommended. Just adjusting so I can see what's going on in the light here. It's a little better. They're looking very similar on camera, but in person they are different. I swear it's more purple. Just to make them a little more distinct, I think I'll try and get this a little more purple for you, just so you can really see. Right now they're looking pretty blue, I would say. Roscoe, hey, welcome. Oh, a canvas board, excellent. That would work just fine. You still got time to blend, everybody. I'm just kind of reapplying some purple here. I'm making more of a light red purple so you can really see that difference here. Maybe I made them a little too similar. Yeah, we're only like 2 steps in, Jamie, so you got lots of time to catch up. Yeah, acrylic paint does dry notoriously fast, but I find if you kind of keep working with it, if you're continuing to add some paint, kind of re-wetting it with a new layer, you can kind of keep working with it for many, many more minutes than you're used to if you just do one coat. Okay, back up, yeah, stable connection. Phew. Yeah, I hope to get these issues fixed. Surely by the next time I do one of these tutorials, those those issues should be dealt with. Fingers crossed. Okay, so next step is going to be similar to what we just did. We're just dealing with different colors. I'm just reapplying a little purple here because mine was getting a little dry. We're going to move down the painting again. We're going to do a nice pink. And we're aiming at this point to be about halfway down after the pink. So if you're wanting to see where we are on the canvas, you can see on my original, where is it over here? We go about halfway down for that horizon line. So we just want to aim for about halfway once we're done this third color, which we're about to apply here. So at this point, I would recommend washing off your brush because we're moving from the blues and the purples into more of a vibrant pink. So wash off that large brush. We're still using the large flat brush, the same one we've been using. The purple is red and blue mixed together with a little white, Jamie. So to do a nice vibrant pink, we just need 2 colors this time, keeping it a little easier. I've got a pile of white, and I've got a little chunk of red as well. Gonna mix those together. Shez, thank you so much. The internet issues are honestly so frustrating. They've never been this bad. I've always had like small little issues here and there, but the last couple of weeks have been madness. Not good. So you can see I'm starting pretty light. I like to add a little more red to get more of a hot pink just to mimic what I have in my original. So I'm just adding chunks of red to that pink until it gets to a shade that I like. Maybe one more chunk. It's like a nice, very bright Barbie pink. Maybe leaning hot pink even. We need more pink terms. I need some good in-betweens for Barbie and hot pink. Okay. And then same thing as usual, just applying that below the color that we just applied, oops, which was the purple. And then working our way down. The best? You are the best. Thank you for following. And again, we're aiming for about halfway. So even if you want to just kind of like put a little line halfway just to show yourself how far down you're going, you're just filling up anything above that with pink. Or again, whatever color you want. Yeah, that's also annoying that each time the stream restarts, Twitch automatically wants to do more ads. I wish I could fix that as well. Super frustrating, yep. I'll explain those ads in a moment too for those who are newer to Twitch. This shouldn't be happening as much as it is, but with the restarts, that's why it's going the way it is. Okay, so once again, applying that big strip of pink. I'll give a quick minute for those still applying, and then I'll reteach the blending, but we will just be doing the exact same thing as we did before, which is combining those 2 colors together. Just getting a little more pink ready, just in case I need it. I forgot we have some nice clouds in this painting too. I was so concentrated on the trees and thinking about getting the background so we can get the trees on, but we got some clouds too. I like those ones. I forgot about them. Oh, wait, you are Luke? That's so great. Luke said, for those who can't see the chat, I'm trying to follow this in pixel art style. Expect the unexpected. Excellent. Gartic on the brain. That's okay, Marion. I'm happy to repeat because I understand those are kind of unexpected here. So I applied a big chunk of pink. I was recommending we go about halfway down. So I recommended if you want to do like a little line about halfway down the canvas just to show yourself where the horizon line is, you can do that. And then I was just swiping back and forth to apply the pink, which again was red and white mixed together. I think that was the only step within that couple-minute period, but if there's anything else, feel free to let me know. Okay, so I'll move on to blending here. Again, take your time if you're still applying some pink. But I'm just going to do perfect, Marion. Great. I'm just going to do the same thing that I did before. So I'm taking the same large flat brush. I'm brushing in between the pink and purple. The purple might be getting a little sticky and dry right now just because we did give it a little time. But again, if you use some pressure on your brush, you'll see it starts to like pick up some of that wet purple that's still remaining. And that's what allows you to blend. If there's a case where maybe your paint dried a little quicker, that's understandable. That happens. We were just talking in a different stream about how different environments can change the drying time. Maybe you have some bright lights on your canvas. Maybe you're by a sunny window or something like that. Maybe it's just warmer where you are. That's totally fine. If you're in that scenario and you find that the pink is maybe just going like right over top of the purple rather than blending, all you need to do is tap your brush into a little extra purple from your palette, so just getting a little extra on there, and then you can go back in between and swipe, and that should be enough to combine those two colors together. So essentially you're just re-adding a little bit of that first color which dried, and then blending again. Same idea, just swiping back and forth until it's nice and smooth. Anyway, for those watching on Twitch regarding the ads, again, apologies. Those ads should not be playing as often as they are. Usually they only play about 3 minutes every hour, but because the stream keeps restarting, the ads keep restarting. And I unfortunately don't believe I have control over that. If someone knows differently, let me know, and I'm happy to pop into my dashboard and change that for today. But yeah, if that means you miss anything during those ads, I can also try and time it so that I'm not teaching a whole new step during an ad break. Just let me know in the chat. I'm happy to repeat. So I'll just give a couple minutes in case anyone has maybe fallen behind. We did do a couple colors there, a couple blending areas. So yeah, take your time with blending. I'll catch up with chat here, and I'll let you know what the next step is once we get those few extra minutes. Twitch just showed me a Rogers Xfinity ad starring Keanu Reeves. I saw that the other day. Isn't that quite the coincidence considering the painting? Honestly, it shocked me, Shez, yeah. He's not the kind of guy I would expect to do a Rogers ad, but here we are, here we are. I finally got to paint. And Roscoe, I saw your lovely post in our Discord. You started a couple paintings, right? Like 2? 7 weeks since it was warm enough. Yeah, you were suffering with the cold temperatures, unfortunately. I'm so glad you're in double digits now. Double digits positive Celsius. Not double digits below 0, thankfully. Yeah, Todd, honestly, I can't recall ever rating Shez, but I have seen Shez around. I do feel like I see you in art chats a lot, Shez, so I recognize your name. That is true. At least he has the Canadian connection. Oh no, Shez, you're not complaining. I'm equally as upset just because it's not usually how many ads I'm running. It just seems that I do have something automatic to run the three minutes every hour to negate the pre-rolls that people get if they join in late. So I'm more frustrated by my internet, which means more of those. So no, not you at all. Don't worry. Yeah, he's playing Fall Guys in the ad, which is so funny to me. Oh dear. Please start any internet company in Canada. That would be really lovely. Any good internet company. I'm running out of internet companies, unfortunately. Oh, I know, Charlene, we do. Guilty. Guilty of supporting artists on Twitch. The most terrible crime. You should be called out for it. Keeping them company while they art along. Terrible behavior. Oh yeah, we love Pinion. We love Pinion. Well, now that I know that Shez streams, I'll check them out. Absolutely. It is always interesting to like sometimes as I said, recognize some names and all that, and then I don't know they stream, so it's always nice to know when who is streaming, who's an art streamer specifically. It's fun. Hey, that's great, Jamie. Jamie said my blends are actually blending, kinda. The kinda at the end. Okay, I feel like I gave enough time there for anyone to catch up. So again, those 3 colors blended into each other. I think next we're going to work continuing down the canvas. So we've reached the horizon line, which means we don't need to blend this portion down. We're just going to leave it nice and solid. So if you need to, maybe let's take a minute to kind of straighten that out just a little bit. Maybe it's looking a little messy on your end. Just take your large flat brush. I like to use the thin edge and just go right along the bottom of that pink section just to kind of straighten it out a little bit. It doesn't need to be perfect, just not like a big angle or any huge bumps here and there. A little straighter across. Wrapping those edges. There we go. So the horizon line is where the snow is going to meet the sky. It's where the sun is going to set. So again, no need to blend. Just a nice easy area to just put in another color next to. Yeah, get the ruler out. It's got to be perfect. There are rules to art if you didn't know, and one of them is to keep everything perfectly straight, perfectly aligned, perfectly measured. Just kidding, of course. Okay, so once you've got that straightened out, we're going to work on the orange first. You can kind of see in the original here, we have two basic colors with a couple, shadows and highlights within them. We have a nice orange glow, which I would say is more kind of like on this left-hand side here, maybe coming a little to the right-hand side. And then to kind of separate it a little bit, we added in some light purple, kind of along the edges here, just kind of scattered to kind of showcase maybe some shadows that are being cast from the trees, maybe even just like dips and bumps in the snow. As we all know, snow can really pile up and create some little divots here and there. So we're going to use both of those colors. I will caution you, orange and purple don't mix very nicely together though. So we want to put down this orange, we'll play with it a little bit, but we actually do want it to dry before we add the purple in. So no blending this time around, we just want to add those two colors nice and cleanly next to each other. Oh, I need to grab some yellow. So you'll still be using your large flat brush. I would wash it off at this point because we are moving to a quite different color here with orange. And a very basic orange is made by mixing yellow and red. Yellow and red. You'll notice depending on the amount of yellow and red you use, you'll get different kind of shades of orange. I would say I make an orange using slightly more yellow because I like it a little lighter and brighter. So big chunks of yellow paint. You can see I'm kind of scooping it onto my brush, mixing it into a smaller amount of red paint. Brightening it right up. Oh yeah, you can totally. Your horizon line can be truly wherever. As long as there's enough space to add a couple trees, you're good. You're good. Okay, and then my secret trick when I'm using anything with yellow paint, because I find yellow to be terribly transparent, is I add a little bit of white to it. So because we're using lots of yellow in this orange mixture, I want to add white to make it more opaque. So it's not going to turn kind of translucent when it dries. It's going to be a little more like bright, solid, clean on top of the canvas. So you can see the white did lighten up a little bit, but more so I'm adding it in for the to get rid of that transparency. Oh, tea time. We love tea time. You're always excused for tea time. All right, so with this orange, I'm just going to start sweeping it in the general areas that I see in the original. I'm having trouble pointing to the original. So I'm not going to go all the way across, just to kind of save the paint and also save us from drying time here. I'm going to look at where the orange is and try and place it like mostly in those spots. If you go a little over, that's okay, of course. Just sweeping left and right. Nice chill step, just sweeping on this orange paint. We're not really worried about exactly where it's going. Just getting a nice smooth layer on. So you can see I kind of started in this left middle area. I'm kind of reducing a little as I go down, kind of pinching in, keeping a little more left. And again, that's only if you want to follow the exact design of my painting design. You can change up where this orange goes in yours if you want. Sweep it across the middle a little bit more. I can see some poking in from the right-hand side, so I'm just going to add some little bits over here. Oh, hi, Nia! Welcome! For those on YouTube, we're getting some Twitch raids, which means other streamers on Twitch who are ending their stream are bringing their lovely people over here to see what we're doing. Hi, Nia! We're doing a step-by-step paint-along right now, a painting tutorial. So I can't be as present with chat as usual. Let's see if I can... Oh, Gray's got you with the shout-out. Thank you so much, Gray. I don't know if we shouted out Mel either. After a couple minutes, I'll do that after Nia gets her little spot to shine here. Nia, if you want to tell us what you were doing, I'm sure I'll see it in chat in a couple minutes while I'm applying this step. But I appreciate you coming in here. Yeah, so we just started maybe half an hour ago with this step-by-step paint along. We're doing this nice design over here above me or to my right. And yeah, I'm just teaching everybody how I did it. So there's some people painting along, some people are just here watching and learning a little bit, chatting as they like. So yeah, good time to pop in. Thanks again for raiding in. Yeah, Shez said it right. Shez said earlier, orange and purple make a good mud. It's so true. So yeah, we want to avoid blending them together while they're wet. So we'll just make sure this orange dries before we work on the purple again. Oh, thank you, Gray. Thank you. Yeah, I think sometimes it takes a little bit of timing, but I think I missed it when Mel came in, but I'd love people to follow her too. Again, I'm not usually streaming when she's on, but I sometimes lurk in the mornings when I see her around. Always making very cute stuff, and again, if her remotes don't sell you, I don't know what will. Her remotes are very cute. We were looking for cats and dinos. Dino Punk, but didn't have time. Dang. You always have the most interesting games going on your stream, I gotta say. I like to think I'm in touch with what games people are playing and what's working right, but then you're like, oh, we're playing Dino Punk? And they always sound so interesting. Thanks, Gray. That's a little explanation of what I'm doing for those who are newer to the channel here. A tutorial, or a toot, I like to call them. I have a whole YouTube channel. I think it's linked there. Yep, if you want to follow along with pre-recorded ones, but I sometimes do them live if you want to follow along live. Thanks, Gray. You're doing so well. You're doing all the things that I forget to do every time. Okay, so just giving a minute or two in case anyone's catching up with the orange here. We will be adding some things to the orange. You can see in the original how I have some lighter orange spots kind of streaked in here. We'll add those on top of the wet orange. Thank you, bro. So yeah, I guess a little bit about this design too, because it is kind of an interesting design for acrylic, I would say. This design was made after I posted some kind of bookmark style designs. So like literally on bookmark sized paper using gouache paint. Gouache is a medium that I only discovered over the last 4 or 5 years. Actually, when I started streaming on Twitch, I started finding gouache artists. And I was like, what the heck is gouache paint? I thought it was like acrylic, oil, watercolor, and that was it. Gouache is kind of this in-between, I call it like an in-between acrylic and watercolor. So it comes in kind of like a jelly or almost like a pudding texture. And it's very, very, how do I describe? You can layer it very, very nicely. So unlike acrylic, where sometimes when you layer a color on top of another color, it becomes a little transparent, maybe a little muddy, like I was describing before. I find with gouache, as long as that first layer is nice and dry, the gouache will lay on top so nicely. So you can put, like, for example, a very light color on top of a dark color, and it just looks super clean. You don't get those transparency issues that you might see with acrylics or maybe even other mediums. So kind of the styles I see mimic that, I guess. They mimic this layering where you get like very distinct colors on top of other very distinct colors. You can still blend with gouache and I see it, but again, I find with certain subject matters, a lot of people just do the nice layering. So point is, I did a couple of these bookmark designs similar to this, kind of the snowy tree idea with these nice layered piles of snow. And a lot of people liked them, and a lot of people said, can we do this in acrylic? And I said, you absolutely can. It takes a little bit more, I guess, like conscious effort because you have to let things dry and you have to really pile on the paint. But yeah, that's where this design came from. I wanted to essentially make an acrylic version of a gouache piece that, or a few gouache pieces that I did. Yeah, Luke is saying in chat, if watercolor and acrylic had a baby, that's how I think of it. I think there's nothing more accurate than that. Nia says, Dino Punk is great. You're the last T-Rex in a dinosaur cyberpunk world. I kind of gathered, I was like, is it cyberpunk dinosaur? You try to keep your repair shop alive? And wait, there's a corporate world too? That's fun. With your that sounds very entertaining. With the short T-Rex arms, that's cute. Yeah, the El Gouache. Try and build a time machine. The plot just keeps going. Try and build a time machine, go back in time to find a girlfriend, know where T-Rexes exist. Of course, that makes sense. That makes sense. Very believable. Everything's lining up. I love how they throw in that logic. Of course there are none left. But they are all working for a corporate world and keeping your repair shop alive. Yeah, Shez describes gouache as thick watercolor. All good ways to describe it for sure. But yeah, odd enough, Shez, I was the same. I never knew about it beforehand. I thought I was decently educated in mediums and different forms of art, and then I had no idea gouache was a thing, so here we are. Alright, so assuming you're done with the orange, I'm going to move on to adding some of these nice highlights that you see in the orange, kind of these like almost golden glows. So I'm going back to my volcano plate. I'm using the same brush and I haven't washed it off. I'm just going to add more white, which I have been doing on the side. That's why it already looks very light here. I was just doing that on my own. But I'll show you here, adding white to our orange mixture. If you want to keep some orange to the side just in case you want to reuse it, you can just kind of move this to the side here. But I just piled it right on top of our previous orange. You could even add a little more yellow if you want to keep it a little brighter, because that white will kind of desaturate it a little bit. So if you want it more like a bright golden color, maybe some more yellow in there will help that. And we're going to go right on top of the orange that we already applied. It is okay if the orange is still a little wet. It's also okay if it's completely dry. Very flexible for this step. So just taking a good chunk of color on my brush, I'm going to use the thin edge of the brush rather than the wide edge, which is what I've been using when I smooth out everything. So switching to the thin edge, just doing some quick little streaks back and forth. So just wiping a little left and right in these thinner streaks, thinner strokes, just to create little glows. It's kind of just separating the orange a little bit, making it a little more interesting. Again, maybe giving a little bit of an illusion of some bumps and lumps in the snow. These are kind of like the top bits that are catching extra light, maybe. Just anywhere where you have orange already. If you really like this color, you can go really hard with it, you know, put it everywhere. I'm just trying to keep it a little more sparse so we have the darker orange and the lighter orange. But yeah, highly recommend gouache. I see a lot of you in the Twitch chat talking about gouache now. I think it's a really fun medium. It's not something I'm super comfortable with yet. Like I don't do commissions with it or anything. Although I did get requests for the bookmarks and I was comfortable replicating what I already did, and that's fine. But yeah, in terms of more complicated pieces, I feel like I'm still, you know, working through figuring out how to use it. So for now, still sticking with acrylic. Literally thought gouache was a new invention too, because why have I never heard of it? Right, yeah. Surely the pandemic was when someone invented gouache. Absolutely. And if you liked this technique, you could even make a third orange, streak it in, but I only stuck with the two just to get more of like a bright orange and then a nice golden color. But yeah, if you like this technique, feel free to keep streaking in more. We will be doing more streaking though with purple, so just so you know that will be coming up soon. I'll give a minute for that. We're actually going to move back up the painting to let this dry so that we don't get that muddy mix of purple and gold. We'll come back down later to do the purple. Yeah, Nia, highly recommend. And one that you don't need a whole lot of like materials for. I just used honestly the same brushes I was using for acrylics. Like anything synthetic I find was very good. So if you already have brushes that you use for acrylic or something else, I would probably just try with what you have. It's just about getting the gouache paint. There's lots of sets available, so you can get just a, limited palette of colors, mix some yourself. Mm-hmm. Shez says that gouache has a long history, having been used for at least 12 centuries. Dang, I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed. Even though we were joking about it being invented like in the past 5 minutes, or 5 hours rather, not 5 minutes, sorry, years. I wouldn't have guessed it was that long. 12 centuries. That's crazy. Have I tried gouache in my bujo? I did, I feel like last year or 2 years ago. I remember making like a ski scene with it, and it worked out pretty well. I remember it kind of crunched up the paper a little bit when it dried, like it got a little wavy, but it didn't go through, which I was very impressed about. We're streaking! It's the only time we're allowed to streak. No, Charlene, that was just me. Charlene is asking in the chat if the window painting, so that's this one back here that you see in the background, is a commission. No, that is a personal piece I did. For those on YouTube, I went on a trip to Japan last year and it was really, really cool. I got a lot of inspo from there, from all the photos that I took. I took some beautiful cloud photos, some very like green garden photos, and yeah, I've been actually painting a couple different pieces from the trip. The other one is actually behind the garden piece. I did a bunch of clouds from a view from Mount Fuji, and I have a couple others in the works as well. Yeah, just for fun. I like recreating photos that I take from different trips or different, yeah, even just like local hikes and whatever. I think it's nice because that way I can kind of like visualize as I'm taking the photo, or when I see something nice, I can kind of visualize it as a painting and then recreate it in my own space. Yeah, it's a nice little process. It's like solidifying a memory too. Obviously the photo itself is a memory, but I like recreating it as a painting too. This one might be a bit better. Okay, so we've done that orange step. I'm going to move us, as I said, up the painting a little bit. I'm going to instruct us through the clouds next. You can see some kind of wispy clouds kind of in that pink-purple area right in here, just kind of right in between the blend. And then once we're done that, the orange should be nice and dry so that we can put some purple along and separate the orange a little bit. So for the clouds, we used two different colors. I used a little bit of a darker purple and then some pink. I'm going to start with the purple to make the actual cloud shapes, and then I used the pink to kind of go below the clouds to make it look like the clouds are kind of glowing from the bottom, kind of catching that pink color in the sky from down here and applying it to the bottom of the clouds. So for the clouds to show up, though, we need them to be a little darker. You can see in the original that they're darker compared to our background here. So we're going to start with a purple that's a nice dark purple. I'll teach you how to swirl them on using this brush here. So we're switching brushes at this point. This is the medium round brush that I'm using. So you can put that large flat brush just in like your little water glass to make sure the paint doesn't dry on it. I'm going to dip my medium round in the water just to get it prepped. And going back to my palette. And I'm just mixing red and blue this time. No white involved because we want to keep this purple very dark so that it shows up on the slightly lighter purple that we have. What's the difference between brushes for synthetic and non-synthetic? Oh no, that's okay. Honestly, I'm not the best person to ask. I just know I like using synthetic. I couldn't really tell you why. I know that the other brushes that are using like actual animal hair, sometimes they can create different textures that I personally don't like. Like you can really see like streaks when you're using those brushes. The bristles will really move the paint around in a certain way. I kind of like the synthetic because I find it smooths it a little bit nicer. Todd said price mostly. Great answer. But yeah, I find they all create slightly different textures. I just don't know enough about the other types of brushes to say like what's the difference between a hog hair brush or a horse hair brush. Honestly, I don't know, so I'm not gonna guess. Shez in chat says that natural hairs hold more water and paint. That's interesting too. There you go. See, if I don't know the answer, chat certainly does, which is great. We're noobs together, Nia. Yeah, I just know I've always I probably have some natural hair brushes in my collection that I don't even know about because I got a lot of brushes donated to me at one point, but I just know I always gravitate towards synthetic. Okay, so I've got my dark purple here. I was just mixing it on the side. That was, again, red and blue with our medium round brush. I'm going to wipe off some of this color. When you mix color together, your brush really holds on to a fair amount of paint, speaking of holding on to paint and whatnot. So I just kind of like wipe it off a bit either on my palette or on a paper towel. That also helps because I don't want a huge chunk of paint in there. I just want a little bit to kind of swirl around for our clouds. I'm then going to go onto our canvas and I'm going to start doing some small little circular motions in between the purple and pink, or a little into the purple or a little into the pink. That's fine too. Just anywhere in that general area. Small circular motions. So as I do my circular motions, I'm kind of moving across the canvas. See how I'm either going left to right or right to left? I'm going horizontally, kind of bumping my brush up and down as I go, and that creates these nice little bumps in the clouds. And again, you should notice that not a lot of paint is coming off. Obviously, you can see paint is coming off, but it's not coming off in big blobs, big chunks. It's more like it's scraping off of the brush, which creates a little more of a soft texture. And that's why I'm continuing to go over top. You can see I'm moving a little back and forth. It's helped shifting the paint around a little bit, keeping it nice and soft and just spreading it out as I go. So you can see I've done clouds a lot, so I'm kind of naturally doing this, but I'm talking my way through it too. The other thing I'm doing is I'm keeping my two edges of the clouds, to the left and right hand side, very small, very tapered. So I've kind of moved up and down in the middle of the cloud. But as I get to the edges, you can see I'm tightening my circles, maybe even sweeping a little left and right rather than doing circular motions. And that makes the cloud kind of wisp out on those sides. And then in terms of the bottom, you can see the bottom of the cloud. I like to keep it a little more just straight horizontal, not as much bumping up and down in here. Of course, it's not perfectly straight, but it's not quite having the arcs that the top of the cloud is. And that's one. So clouds, of course, come in all different shapes and sizes. Oh, another Mel. Welcome in. Hello. Clouds come in all different shapes and sizes, so you do not have to follow, of course, the exact shape I'm doing here. I just find this is a very common cloud shape, and I think it's a little easier to do, a little easier for me to explain as well. The tapered edges, the kind of bumps and lumps in the middle. But you can, of course, alter it a bit. It doesn't need to be this kind of like triangular shape here. Let me give you an example. Maybe you want to make a cloud that's a little more heavy on one side. I've just picked up a little more paint on my brush to demonstrate here. Circular motions bumping up and down. And then maybe what I'll do, instead of evening it out on either side, I'll just kind of abruptly end it on the left here with some little flicks of my brush. But I'll keep it going on the right this time. And then eventually taper off here, so it's a little more unbalanced, but I think it looks a little more natural too, right? But it's the same idea, just bumping up and down, keeping the edges a little softer, a little more tapered, keeping the bottom a little more straight. Grace says synthetics are made of polyester or nylon, natural brushes from animals. Yeah. I just wonder how they differ with like using them too, but it seems like chat knows. Is it Neko? Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Nia, I believe there is an answer to that. Again, I don't really know. But I think so, yes. I think there's certain ones that are recommended for certain mediums. For acrylic, I know I use my synthetic. I would assume there's not a hard rule that you can't use natural hair with acrylic, for example. I feel like oil is where I find people are using the more natural hairs. Because again, it gives a certain texture. I think it really does depend, though, on what kind of look you want with your painting. I'm sure you could kind of mix and match with a lot of different mediums and a lot of different brushes. Don't quote me on it. Again, this is just what I've noticed. But I think it's more about what the outcome is that you want. Again, it sounds like chat knows though. So I'm going to read what they're saying. Hog and horse hold their shape. I didn't even know there was a squirrel one. Squirrels and sable do not. Yeah, new to me, Gray. There are squirrel hair brushes. As I'm reading along chat, I'm just going to keep adding clouds. I'm trying to mimic what I see in my original painting in terms of where I'm putting them. But now that you know how to do them, you can put them really wherever you want. Again, feel free to follow my design. Pile a little more on the left if you want. Again, my only real suggestion is to keep them within that kind of pink-purple zone. Maybe a little more up here as well, but otherwise not too far. Looks like I added just a touch up here, just so the top of the painting wasn't all alone. And I'll repeat again, I find a big key to these is just the amount of paint you're using. So as I'm adding paint, it's kind of off camera, but I'll show you. I'm kind of dipping into my paint pile and then I'm immediately wiping it off again. It seems counterproductive, but it allows you to get some fresh paint on your brush, but also not a huge blob of it. The blob is when I find it gets a little bit messy with the clouds and you lose a little bit of the softness. Again, not impossible to use it that way, but I find it easier to just use less. That way you can pile it in slowly, add as much or as little as you like. Oh, thanks, Shez. Shez likes my cloud. Thanks so much. And as I do more, maybe you can see too, I get a little looser with the shapes. Like maybe I don't even do big bumps and lumps at the top. Maybe I just do a couple little swirls, call it a day. It's more of a wispy cloud. Just a small little guy. He hasn't quite found his shape yet. He's just chilling. Chilling as a little mist. Sometimes I'll even just wipe a little left and right. Again, more of just a wisp cloud. I don't do a whole lot of that, so I won't add too much, but nice to do on the edges as well. Again, small amount of paint as we're doing that. Oh, so yeah, Todd is saying, back to the oil acrylic brush conversation, do not use synthetic brush for oils unless it's specifically rated for oils, because the oil solvents will eat the bristles. This is, yeah, oil paints. This is why I continue to say I'm nervous about them. I'm intimidated. Seems like there's a lot more to think about. The oil will eat the. I've never in my life been like, will the acrylic eat these bristles? Not something I need to think about. Interesting, Todd. Oh, dipped into blue there accidentally. Maybe a little more and then I'm good here. I guess one more note about clouds too. You can see I'm keeping them mostly separated just so you can really see the shapes, but don't be afraid to kind of pile them as well. In this area here, you can see I'm kind of piling a couple on top of each other. I'm following the same steps and same method. I'm just letting them kind of overlap and touch a bit. Totally fine. It might look a little blobby right now or a little like misshapen, but with our next step, we will be adding some pink on the bottoms of the clouds, and that will allow them to separate again. We can kind of use the pink to show this cloud here versus this cloud here versus this cloud here. So if that's happening on your end, you're getting a little nervous, give it another minute or two, and I think you'll see it change nicely. There we go, that's fine. Another reason brushes might need replacing more often because the canvas is also rougher, more abrasive. Totally, and like how you're using them. Again, I wouldn't say I'm abusing it with this technique, but it is really, you know, squishing the bristles in, really misshaping them as I'm twisting like this versus just like a nice smooth back and forth. So totally, depending on how you use it or the canvas you're using it on. I feel like, no, I feel like it is true. You said no idea if it's true. No, I totally would see it. If you're using it to like tap on, you know, paint a bunch, kind of squishing it for trees and whatnot, I'm sure it would it would go a lot quicker, but these ones have lasted for a long time, thankfully. Lori, hello, welcome in. Just trying to catch up on chat as I keep teaching here. Hollow, have a good night. Thanks for sticking around a bit, but yes, if you gotta go, please go. Have a good evening. True, Todd. Yeah, Todd said, I started with watercolors, so I'm very gentle with my canvas on the off chance I actually make some art. Yeah, watercolor's kind of a different, you're not usually very violently slapping a brush against a, you know, small little watercolor paper. I guess it happens here and there, but not as much as you're not like piling on paint like you would with acrylic and oil, so very different. But yeah, Gray says, trust the process. So true with these clouds. You're getting a little nervous, just trust the process. We still got one step to add here. I'm just gonna redo some red here before I go ahead with that. Re-add some red. Okay, so as I described, I'll say again, we're going to add some pink to these clouds now, just to, again, give them a little more shape in case we maybe piled a few together, but also to mimic this kind of glow that's happening down here, this nice pink color in the sky. We want it to kind of bounce off the clouds, just to add a nice, beautiful color to our clouds along with the purple. So I'm using the same brush again. That was the medium round brush still. I have washed it off because we're going into more of a pink now. And I'm going to remix some pink because my pink on my palette has dried. So pink again is red and white together. And I would say I'm doing maybe even a hotter pink. Yeah, it looks a little darker than the pink in the sky. So whatever pink you have in the sky, add a little more red to your mixture to make it a little bit deeper, darker, hotter, whatever terminology you want to use. A nice, very bright pink. And then once you have that pink, I was suggesting you wipe it off a bit. So similar to what we were doing with the purple, we want to wipe it off of our brush so that there's not a big hunk of paint waiting for us. We just want the bristles to be slightly coated. Yeah, moving magic. Okay, so we've got a brush with that nice hot pink, just a little bit on. We're doing the same technique. The only difference is the placement. We're just going to place this pink on top of the purple, right at the bottoms of the clouds. So see how I'm just doing my tiny little circles, very lightly as well, not a lot of pressure, all along the bottoms. I left a little gap in this one because I have this cloud in front, so I want to show that this purple cloud is in front by breaking up my pink. So I put the pink here, lifted, moved over here. Then I'm going to do this bottom cloud here, same thing, just a little bit of paint swirling along the bottom, creating a nice little glow. And then it looks like I've got a third one here that I'll highlight. Cute. So yeah, you can see not super bright, but enough that it's creating this nice little glow effect on the bottom. Not very distinct, I should say, too. So I'm just going to each cloud, adding that nice little punch of pink along the bottom. If you really like the pink, you could even just add some pink clouds. If you do that, I would suggest adding them down here, maybe where it's a little lighter. I think that would make a little more sense. But yeah, experiment. Experiment with some different colors if you like the technique and just want to try something different in the sky. Yeah, really appreciate you all sticking around. I understand this internet thing must be very frustrating. Again, I do upload these to YouTube after, and I will edit out all those little gaps. So if you'd rather just follow along that way, totally fine. Totally get you. Hoping by next time I do this, my internet will be fixed. There. Hey Luke, welcome in. Got both Lukes today. Oh, super bright pink? That's okay. You can just pile on some darker pink on top if you want. Yeah, once the second you notice you don't like the color on your canvas, just remix and then pile on top. It'll kind of blend in because it'll be still be wet. It'll be still be. Radio, welcome back in too. Hello. The other one. Both of you. Okay, as usual, I'll just give a minute or two in case anyone's adding to their clouds. Maybe you even want to go back and re-add some purple. Maybe the pink overtook a little bit. You can always just grab more purple, add it where you need. And then just as a heads up, our next step is going to be going back down in the painting. We're going to be doing those purpley bits. So at this point, your orange should be very dry. If it's not, I'm sure you could still work with it. I'm sure it's at like a sticky stage. You can just make sure you're not going like straight over top, you know, just kind of being a little more careful. But I think it will be mostly dry. I saw a quick glitch there. I think we're still up though, thankfully. Yeah, I think we're still good. Sometimes there's little mini cuts and yeah. Okay, cool. I think it just froze up slightly there. If you need me to repeat anything, let me know. I saw my face go, ah, and then stay there for 5 seconds. I was like, wow, what a face to end on. Couldn't choose a nice face. It's always got to be the mid-talking face. It's like it knows, you know? I'm just going to take this minute to refresh my palette. I'm missing some colors here. What are we gonna need? We're gonna need more blue. Being extra careful today about the floor because my carpet is still drying. Last time I was painting on stream, I was using my small little light palette and I dropped it because I think it was right after the earthquake, right? At least I can use that as an excuse. I was still shaken up. We experienced an earthquake live on stream the other day. And I just like dropped my palette, just like flipped perfectly over and just splatted right on my small little carpet I have to protect the floor. Anyway, it's still drying right now. I was able to wash the paint out, thankfully. Just lots of water did it. But it still needs to dry, so I'm carpetless today. Ooh. Yeah, that was crazy. For those who missed it, a brief moment in the middle of me concentrating painting and just everything shook for like 2 seconds. It was very quick, but it was my first ever experience, so it really quite literally shook me. I had no idea what it was. I was coping and trying to think of other things it could have been, and we confirmed it was earthquake. Yeah, and we survived. Yep, we rebuilt. It was very minor. Everything's fine. Yeah. I think they said 4.8. Maybe it depends on what areas, but yeah, it was just my first ever experience. I've only been 2 years in the West Coast now. I'm originally from Ontario where we don't have that kind of stuff, like maybe minor ones, but I've never, legitimately felt one. So that was my first time and we caught it live on stream. There's a lovely clip of me freaking out. I went, ooh! It was quite the alarm. That's kind of what it felt. I thought either something I was thinking my desk had like moved or adjusted or something because I have kind of two desks here and one is a little bit on top of another and my theory was that it like slid off and went boom boom boom, boom, but my brain was just not working clearly. Yeah, I didn't I'm glad you liked that clip, Gray. First stream I went to because that guy's Vancouver local as well. And he was just like, "Oh, I think we had an earthquake." Meanwhile, I'm like, what is it? I was very upset. Oh, dear. Yeah, I'm sure it won't be my last. Nah. It's all good. No, I bought a carpet a while ago that was like my painting carpet, so it's okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't like totally wrecked with paint, you know? No big deal if there's small splotches, but it was like big piles that fell, so I was like, I need to fix this. All right, gonna go on to the next step here. So as mentioned, we're gonna move back down the painting. We're gonna start to fill in these gaps here with some nice kind of, once again, the blue purples. I would call these kind of more medium tone blue purples. This is like a nice deeper one up here. We're gonna add more white to make it a little lighter. So I'm switching back to my large flat brush. I'm putting the medium round in the water over there so it's not drying. Mixing together red and blue. You can see I'm just kind of grabbing a little bit of each, mixing them together at the bottom of my volcano. And this time I'm going to add lots more white. Lots of white. More white than I did up top is what I was trying to articulate there. So you can see how it's creating this almost like periwinkle color at this point. It's like a nice medium tone to light toned purple blue. Mixing a fair amount of it because we need enough for it to cover all these little gaps. And even if you want to overlap, you can overlap as well now that the orange is dry. Okay. Maybe a little more white just to lighten up a little more. Okay, here we go. So once you've got that color ready, I'm once again using the large flat with the kind of thin edge rather than the wide one. And I like to keep that same like streaky motion. So just doing these nice little thin strokes. Even though I'm covering up these large gaps, I still like to keep the thin edge so that the edges of my strokes look kind of like this. They're kind of like spiking into the orange. So going right up along the horizon line. And just sweeping back and forth, again, overlapping the orange because it's now dry. You can just lay it right on top. And it's a darker color, so it's gonna lay on very easily. No worries there. And again, you can use this purple to kind of change the shape of the orange if you want. Maybe you added a little too much orange in your opinion. You can use the purple to close in certain areas, therefore reshaping what the orange is looking like. But yeah, you can see I'm mostly just kind of covering up my gaps. I can alter it if I want a little later. Just sweeping, sweeping, sweeping. We will add a second version of this color on top, similar to the orange, to get kind of like a highlight in there. So if you're thinking it looks a little dark, again, don't worry. We will add a lighter version of this color on top as well. So again, trying to keep that nice horizon line pretty straight, semi-straight. A little bumpy here and there. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can catch up on chat. We don't have them that often either. Not that style. It was different. Oh, really? Okay, that's good to know. Because yeah, it was very when I pictured earthquakes, I guess, I expected it to be like more of a light rumble, but for longer. And this was more of just like a big, like momentary shake for a second or two. I really don't feel like it lasted that long. Looking back at the little clip, it maybe looks like there was actually a little more of a shake afterwards, but I wasn't really feeling that. I was more concentrating on the big one. Who's also... Oh, there's lots of local artists. I think I was referring to Northern Lion, though. Larger streamer. He's Vancouver local, and I went straight to his chat while we were live to see if his chat was freaking about an earthquake, and I saw them, so I was like, confirmed it was an earthquake. But the way he reacted, I guess he's been here longer. He just kind of said, hey, I think we just had an earthquake. And then he goes, I thought it was my cat moving my monitor, but I think it was an earthquake. So, like, so minor. And versus I on stream was like looking around in fear. And anyway, two different reactions. I guess that's what happens when you've experienced it before versus I was very new. OCD, hey, welcome in. I will have a little hydrate in a moment. Erin, have you met or run into Debbie Cat on Twitch? She's Maritimes, list of all Canadian art streams. Has a list. Oh, that's fun. We should have started doing that because, like, yeah, I feel like there's so many of us. Debbie Cat, I don't think I recognize. Do you want a link? Oh, wait, no, don't do it because you'll get bonked. Don't do it. Sorry. If you want to link the channel, you have 60 seconds. That way I can give them a follow. Bait, see? Yeah, usually there's no links allowed, and then I'm always like, oh, why don't you link it? And then someone gets timed out. Anyway. But yeah, Vancouver-ish, exactly. I just cite Vancouver as my general area. I don't get any more specific than that. It is the major city closest to me. Okay, so I've kind of put down my first layer here. Once I fill in the gaps, then I kind of go in and change the shapes if I want. I just kind of like make them a little more sporadic, like I jet them out a little bit more. I just don't like it being the same all the way down, so I kind of streak out further in a couple spots. Again, it leaves us with the idea that there's some hills and bumps in the snow, maybe. Yeah. Maybe a little more up here by the horizon line. I will be putting some trees you can see in the distance, so kind of maybe some shadows that are being cast there. Oh, Roscoe, I just saw your message there. Have a good one. I hope so. Absolutely. Sounds good, sounds good. Glad you're painting again, Roscoe. Yeah, I'll be screaming if anything more than a 2-second 2-second earthquake happens. It made me think though of having an earthquake plan because I was talking to friends about it and they're like, "Yeah, growing up, West Coast, we had drills in school." My friend was telling me that they actually like play an earthquake sound over the speakers, like a rumbling to teach the kids to hide under their desk, which I thought was so cute. They actually like play a rumbling sound. And the kids are like, "Oh, let's go under the desk." But yeah, it made me feel like I should actually consider that because I just sat here when it happened. I just said, "Oh," didn't do anything. Yeah, learning experience for me. Eye-opening. Yeah, if you have pets, for sure, peel the cat off the couch. I get it, for sure. Oh, thank you. You both linked. Thanks so much. I'm gonna open up for another time here. Quick follow. Yeah, surprised I haven't run across them before. I don't recognize. Yeah, some drills, exactly. Okay, so the dark purple's on. Just to the side here, I'm mixing my next color. Just adding white to my existing color. So I've added a big chunk of white paint with my large flat brush to my existing kind of periwinkle light blue red. Light blue purple, excuse me. Technically a blue red, I guess. And yeah, making a lighter version. Maybe that's a little too light. Point is anything lighter than what you were working with so that you can pile it on top. So similar to that golden on top of the orange, we're just going to make a nice lighter version, piling it on top, so streaking that on here. Same idea, just doing it a little less than we were before, so we're not covering the entire area, we're just adding some little highlights and streaks. Drill for earthquakes. Get under desk, protect your head, also hold desk legs so it doesn't shake. Yeah, I was told to hold on. Yikes. Anyway, hopefully that's the first one for a while. Hopefully that's not a common occurrence in the next little bit. Yeah, so you can see this color just brightens it right up again. And yeah, you can add this in new areas as well if you want to like use this light purple to extend out further, but mostly I am just piling on top of what we already have. Not really creating new areas, just adding to the ones that already exist. Okay, so I'll stop there for a minute or two, let everyone catch up. And then we can move on to some trees, which I feel like is the main event. I'm going to actually do our little background ones first, and then we'll move foreground, of course. A little makes sense to do back to forward. Sounds good, Gray? People sitting very comfortable around campfire with friends. Charlene says, Aaron, did you hear about the plane crash in Toronto? I did. I did. Yeah, I see all of those. It's scary flying these days. There's been a lot of accidents happening. But yeah, I saw the Toronto one specifically with the plane flipping. Thankfully, apparently there were maybe a couple injured, but everyone survived, which is very good. But yeah, that one really, I don't know, I saw video footage and I couldn't believe how that happened. I was so shocked to see that it actually flipped around. I don't know if they've determined what caused it or not, but it was very it didn't make sense for my brain, you know? Oh, really, Shez? Do you have an explanation? If you'd like to explain, if it's like too much to type out, feel free to just skip. Oh, sorry about that, Jamie. That's the other thing I find about ads too. They like bump up the volume so crazy. That happened to me. They were showing a scary movie ad and it went like boom right in my ears. Not good. Oh, Piff G, lol. It's coming back. It's coming back. I think it's back. Is my signal being received? Glorp glorp. Beep boop beep boop. I think we're good. Yes, quick glitch there. I will type, we're back. Oh, sorry, Jamie. I can repeat it then. So we did the lighter purple blue. So all I did is I took my large flat brush, I mixed white paint into my existing purpley blue color that I used here, the nice dark one. So I mixed white into it. You can see it created this nice, very light version of the same color. And then I just streaked it on top, just briefly. So like not covering everything, but kind of sporadically streaked it on in small little sections on top of the dark purples. I'll give you another couple minutes, considering that happened during ads. The plane is designed that the wings snap off in an accident. Oh! So a gust hit the plane as it was landing, which blew it sideways, causing the wing to touch, and it just snapped. That is what it looked like. I think that's what surprised me, is that it so quickly just kept flipping. That's interesting that they design it that way. Yeah, physics and all that. Mm-hmm. Jamie, if you need more instruction than that, just let me know, but I'll give a couple extra minutes considering. Sorry, I should have been more aware of that while I was going through that step. Yeah, I mean, surely there's logic to it, but that kind of alarms me that a plane wing is designed to snap. You know? Kind of alarms me that they said, let's make this easy to snap off. Anyway, I'm not a plane, so I don't know. But exactly, yeah, I'm glad that everyone survived, and I can only imagine, how they feel about flying again, but I hope Delta gives them a good payout, I hope they get compensated for their traumas, is all I'm gonna say. Good, okay, good, Jamie. I'll still leave another minute just in case. No, exactly, Shez. Yeah, I can totally see some logic, but also my small brain is like, why would it want to snap? But yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I'm not a plane, so I don't know. Glad I could clear it out for everybody. I see, Charlene. I'm sure you could drive to a cruise port, though, if you don't want to fly. Thankfully, there haven't been many cruise accidents, other than that iconic one with the... That was more the captain's fault, though. Remember the captain who, like, drove his cruise boat too close to the shoreline and then it got stuck? Yeah. I forget if it's still there, too. It was there for years. I don't know if they've finally fished it out, but it was just, like, sitting there for so long. Just too heavy, I guess. I mean, it's a boat. It's a dang boat, so yeah, why is it? Yeah, wait. Wait, why is it? Wait a sec. Oh, and Chess, I missed your question, but I did read it and then I forgot to answer. You said, how long have I been on Twitch streaming? I've been streaming since... Oh, I see my frames catching up. Hello? Hello? We're still here. Hello? There we go. I've been streaming since 2020. Did y'all hear me while I was talking through there? I can repeat if not. But yeah, I'm one of the pandemic streamer babies. COVID kind of wrecked what I was doing job-wise, so I had to very quickly shift online. And I did that within like a month or two of COVID being a thing. No, 2 months, 2 months. Cool, still here. Great. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I'm one of them. One of the COVID recruits. Okay, so just as a heads up, we're going to the next step here. We will be using black as well as red. So if you haven't prepped with a little bit of black paint on your palette, as I haven't, I'm just going to add it now. We're going to be making like a rusty red, so I'm going to use a tiny amount of black, lots of red paint. This is going to be for the base of the trees that we're doing. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, everyone's super nice here. They all understand. But yeah, it honestly wasn't something that I thought I would do long term, and here I am still here, so things work out in funny ways, you know? Da-da-da. Okay, so first of all, for these trees, I am going to switch back to my medium round brush here. So I've now put the large flat brush in the water. I'm going to be mixing kind of like a rusty red color as I just described for the base of the trees. Maybe you can see in my original over here, but I use kind of like this dark red on the sides of the trees that are away from the sunlight. We will be putting a sun right in the middle here. So essentially on the right-hand side of the trees on the right and the left-hand side of the trees on the left, we're going to use this very dark rusty red color. And then as we get closer to the sunshine, which is the light source, we're going to make more of like a red on the left of the right-hand trees and a red on the right of the left-hand trees. I know it's a mouthful. I think you seeing me do it will be a little bit easier to understand. But yeah, making it lighter towards the middle. That way it has more of a light glow where the sun is shining. So we'll start with kind of the dark rusty red, and then we'll add the red on top to make it more of a light glow. So taking my medium round brush, I'm just grabbing a small amount of black paint. You really don't need much because it is very pigmented and powerful. Small amount of black into a large amount of red. And you can see it turns it, see compared to these two, this is the red, this is the kind of rusty red here. Maybe even a little darker. Because we want a nice dark base for our nice light snow to sit on top of. That's what gives that nice contrasting effect of that kind of purpley color that we'll use for the chunks of snow on top of the dark base of the trees. Okay. So I'm going to start with some pretty easy trees. These are going to be the trees in the background here, just right along the horizon line. They're kind of just like little sticks. We're really not giving them much shape or dimension at all. I'm just going to go along the horizon line. I'm going to avoid this kind of middle to middle right area because that's where my sunshine is going to go, so I just don't want to block it. So maybe I'll start over here somewhere. It's going to take the tip of my brush, start on the horizon line, and flick upwards while moving along to the right. Creates these nice little, yeah, they literally just look like sticks. And those are just kind of little treetops that are way far away. We can't really see what's going on with them. We just know that they're nice and tall and pointy. So just taking a little paint, tip of the brush, flicking. I like flicking upwards. I guess theoretically you could flick downwards, but I like going upwards because that way I can choose where the start is on the bottom and then go up. I want to make sure they're all even on the bottom for the horizon line, right? So I'm just going to make them smaller and smaller until I get close to that middle area, and then I'm just going to stop as if they're kind of like tapering away. I'll add a little over here, but I do see in our painting we will be adding a big tree in front, so just for the sake of, you know, not wasting time, I'm not going to fill up that whole area. Just add a couple over here in case there's a gap. And then, yeah, it looks like we have a big tree right here, so I'll just add some over here. Anywhere where I think there's going to be a gap. And again, there's no harm in filling it all the way up if you want to be safe. Maybe you're changing the layout of where the trees are. That's totally fine. Maybe you just want to practice, you know, maybe you know you're going to cover them up and you want to just practice some little flicks. That's totally fine too. No harm in doing that. Yeah, very basic. Just little sticks in the background. Yeah, we don't often use black paint. Actually, specifically for me when I'm making my paintings, I've been avoiding using black because I like the idea of mixing my shadow colors, kind of choosing if I want them a little warmer, a little cooler. Black is just such a dark color. I'd rather use like blues and reds to kind of mix a dark purple for a shadow. Maybe like a deep green or something like that. But yeah, sometimes it's just a little easier to mix with some black paint, especially if we're doing a little step by step. In the interest of time, we don't want to be mixing 4 different colors together. I'm a Taurus, Todd. I'm a Taurus. Fab says, I have a whole pandemic gallery all painted with Erin. Yep, that's how a lot of people found me too, was right around the pandemic. When everyone was inside looking for things to do. That's so fun, Fab, that you still have all those. Good memories. I have a pretty good chunk of them as well. I've downsized my painting collection, but I hang on to a good chunk of them even though they're not for sale or anything. I just like having them for the memories. I have like 2 metal shelves full that's within view over there. It was a highlight of the pandemic. It's hard for me to say like good times. They were good times, but the pandemic itself was not the best, right? But at least that was a little highlight for me. Oh, really? I don't know all the little signs and compatibilities personally. I just trust what others say. I let the others tell me about those types of things. Okay, so those are the very basic faraway trees. I now have, let me count them. I would say I have 4 medium trees and then 2 bigger trees. So looking on that here, I have 2 kind of smaller medium ones on the left-hand side of that bigger tree. I have 1 on the right-hand side, and I have 1 you can see way on the right-hand side there. Again, you do not need to follow that exactly, just letting you know what I did personally. So I'll start with those. I'll call them medium. I won't call them small medium. We'll say medium trees, and then we'll do the large trees, okay? So working from small to large. So these trees are going to have a little more dimension rather than just being sticks. I'm going to start by placing the trees down just with vertical lines. I like to put the vertical lines so I know where the trees are going, and then I can kind of build them out. Also, hello to your kitty shows. Very cute. So just a vertical line to showcase where the tree will go. You can see I'm making it end below the horizon line because it is now coming closer to us. We don't want it sitting on the horizon line with all the small ones. We want it coming forward, so further down below the horizon line. That's 1. I'll put a second one, maybe a little shorter here. Again, I'm just mimicking as best as possible what I did before. Looks like 1 is sitting about here. And 1 last one. Oh yeah, way over here. So yeah, these might be covered up, but that's okay. Or if you want to add more, you totally can. I think if anything, it looks a little sparse in my original design, but it would take a long time to really fill it up. But yeah, use your techniques and add what you like. So 4 vertical lines. I now have more paint on my medium round brush. And I'm just going to start tapping from top to bottom. We want to keep the top very, very thin, very pointed, and then as we come down, we want it to taper outwards and get a little wider as we come down. So I'll use this one to begin. It's going to do one tiny tap at the top, maybe a little bit of a harder tap just below that, a little harder, and then I'm going to start to tap and also move a little left and right as I tap. Little left, little right, little left, little right. And I'm going further out with each time I do that. Tap, 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 tap. And we got a little tree. If you feel like you tapped a little too hard at the top and it looks a little top heavy, a trick I always use is just use the very tip of my brush, extend it up a little extra. Now I've got a nice little thin top, little pointy top, I should say. Let's do this one. 1 tap, 2 taps, 3 taps, harder, 4 taps, even harder. Now we're tapping to the left, tapping to the right, tapping to the left, and each time I start, I go back to the middle, by the way. So I'm going to the middle, tapping left, 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 going to the middle, tapping right, right, right. Working our way down, looking for that triangular shape. Ta-da! And we are using the same color that whole time. I was talking before about creating a glow. We will create that glow afterwards, okay? So in case anyone's wondering about that, we are using the very dark, rusty red color for now. We will add in the red after. Same over here. Tap. Harder tap. Slightly harder tap. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. Left, right. Left, right. To get more specific about what I'm doing as well, while I'm tapping left and right, you can see I'm kind of leaving gaps in between each little row of taps. That way you can kind of see the branches individually. I also sometimes like to go back up the middle and tap a little extra just to fill in the tree in the middle while keeping those branches nice and separated on the edges. I find sometimes if it looks too sparse in the middle, it looks kind of like a skeleton tree. And I guess that would fit for winter technically, but yeah, I want mine a little more full because we're going to be adding snow on them, right? We want them to hold that snow. Last medium-sized one. Tap, 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 tap. Right, left, right, left, right, left. If you're having trouble seeing what I'm doing, hold on just a second because I will be doing this with larger trees next. We can get a little more of a peek into what I'm doing here. Queenie, hello. That is a cute little entry emote. Hopping on in, rolling on in. Okay, just gonna give a quick minute in case anyone's still working on those trees a bit, and then I'll do the nice big ones for you. It's gonna be the same technique, just like larger taps, maybe a little more structure to the branches. And I will say, the other thing is, we're adding snow on top of these, right? We're going to add red for the highlight plus some snow. So if you're not totally in love with the shape of your tree, again, trust the process. I wouldn't worry about it too much because we're just going to be piling on big, thick chunks of snow anyway. And that's going to cover up some of what we were doing. So if there's certain parts that are kind of catching your eye right now, again, I would wait until you've got the snow on and then decide if you want to spend some time fixing those parts. Fixing, altering, whatever word you want to use. It is a little tomato. Wait, there's a whole series. I love the more like oval shape of him as he's rolling. He's very squishy looking. Rolling along. I'm just mixing more of the same color on the side here. Again, lots of red with a little black. Nice rusty red. Oh my god, look at him. He's drawing with this little green tongue sticking out. So cute. Alright, let me show you some big trees again, maybe. If you couldn't see the mediums as well, maybe this big one will help you along. I start them the exact same. We just like to do some vertical lines. So this is going to look very intrusive. This is a very Bob Ross moment where you feel like he's ruining the painting, but then he saves it again. I'm going to do a nice big vertical line, maybe about 2/3 of the way across. I'm going to start it way up in this blue-purple portion and come all the way down this time. Ruined. We will save it, don't worry. And then I'm going to do a smaller one, still a large tree, but you can see it doesn't go all the way up and down the painting. I'm going to start this next one kind of in the clouds here, the pink-purple area, and I'm going to come down maybe about halfway down our snowy area. So I'm not ending this one at the bottom, I'm ending it about halfway down. Just to get some different distances going. Charlene says, Erin, do you have your website still? I do, yeah. Website is still live. That's where I showcase my portfolio, all of my artwork that's for sale. Yes, it is still up and running. More info about me, links and all of that, all can be found there. Alright, once we have our vertical lines, I'll start with our big guy on the right here. Just gonna do the same thing. It's just gonna be a little more like defined when I'm doing my taps. With the medium size, excuse me, trees, I was a little more, I guess rough and a little less, like particular of where my taps were going, a little messier. With this, I'm just gonna be a little more clean about it, I guess. So here I go. Let's start at the top. I'm gonna tap once. I'm gonna tap once a little harder, maybe twice a little harder. Couple more times a little harder, left and right. And then I'm going to start doing the taps out to the left, taps out to the right. Tap to the left, tap to the right. You can see because this is bigger, I'll note that the kind of direction I'm going as well, I'm not really going straight. I'm not going straight left and right like this. I'm kind of angling down. The reason I do that is, especially in this painting with all the snow, right? You would think the snow kind of weighs down the branches a bit. So I think it makes sense that they're all kind of leaning a little down or angling a little down. It's not a hard rule, but I mostly angled them down. Maybe here and there, maybe they stick out a little straighter, just to balance a little bit. But mostly kind of angling downwards. You can see I just kind of tapped a little extra in the middle there. That was just to fill up the tree a bit more. I'm gonna keep that point at the top here. And we're just doing the same thing continuing down. It's gonna seem quite repetitive, but it is what we have to do to get all the way down to the bottom. Tap, 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 tap. Reload your brush here and there as well. This is a big tree using lots of paint, so I'm kind of reloading with each, maybe every other branch. I'm kind of tapping to the left, tapping to the right, and reloading. I'll show you an example here of what it looks like if I don't go back through the middle here. You'll get these very distinct lines. Again, I was describing it earlier, kind of like a skeleton tree. It kind of looks like a rib cage. Big spine and rib cage. It just looks very bare, right? And again, like that can be a look for a tree for sure, especially in the winter time. But we want to pile snow on top, so we want to make sure it's nice and thick for all that snow. I'm just going to mix more paint. I'm running out of paint. So yeah, if this is what yours is looking like and you're like, what am I doing wrong here? You're doing nothing wrong. You just haven't added a little more. So to add a little more, I'm just going to focus in the middle, tap a little left and right, and you can see that just kind of like fills up the tree a bit more. So you still have those nice branches on the left and right that you can see the separation with. That's also a little more full and filled out. Yeah, you won't always get it in one shot. Even still, for me, after painting trees for so many years, I still kind of start with a little bit of a skeleton and then go back and adjust and have a little look, adjust a little further. Stanty, thank you for the raid. Hello. I am mid-painting tutorial right now. A little paint along action. Give me a quick minute and I'll shout you out and we can chat about what you were doing on stream today. It's been a minute. More Hitman, perhaps? you've probably moved on from that. All the way to the bottom. I'm almost there. So you can see how wide it gets. You can see it's really starting to fill up the bottom. That's what you need. That's the right way to do it. We want it continuously getting slightly wider as it comes down. You can see I've kind of jetted in a bit here. I actually want to bring that a little further out. That's what I mean by going back to adjust, going back to see what the shape's looking like, and then adjusting as you need. I can see mine's also tilting a bit. I can fix that in a moment. You don't believe in that, Luke? You don't believe in the stars and... Come on. Surely I get along better with people whose stars were aligned a certain way. Come on! A daily horoscope determined by where the planets are in the sky. Please! Come on! I think it's fun to look at sometimes. Oh, sight, yeah. I should probably add sight. That's a good one. Oh, okay, let's see, Stanty. There you go. Killer 7, okay. This sounds like a Hitman adjacent. Maybe I wasn't quite wrong. Yeah, today's piece is going well. We're almost there. We're just getting our bases of our trees down, and then we're gonna add some nice snow to them. I guess we're adding a glow first. Glow and then snow. Good combo. And I think that's it. Oh, and then the sunshine. That'll be the final piece. Final piece. Are you having fun playing Killer 7? Oh, there you go. It's a game about Hitman, but not Hitman. Okay, not about Hitmen, not Hitman. Gotcha. Yeah, sounds like it. Is it a whole series? I assume with the 7 at the end. Maybe it's game 7. I don't know, though. Okay, so I've reached the bottom. You can see my tree's looking pretty full, but I've noticed my tree's kind of tilting. Now, I can either just say, hey, I like that. Trees do tilt sometimes. Maybe it's very heavy with snow. Or I might be the type of person to say, no, I really want it nice and straight. And if you're a person who wants it nice and straight, I'll show you how to fix it. So mine's kind of tilting this way, which means I need to bring it out to the right a little bit more, right? Because I need to fill in this gap that's being created with the curve. So to fix this tilt, I'm just going to imagine again a very straight vertical line. It would kind of go over here, right? So that means I need to fill in the right-hand side a bit more. So I'm just going to tap in the middle right-hand area a bit more. Fill it out further. Filling in the curve that's being created. And I'm going to fill out these branches a bit more. Just bring them out a little further. Just to make it balance a bit nicer. Just taking what I already have, kind of re-tapping, and then tapping just a little further out. Not much. You can see already it's looking nice and straight again. So again, the way I think of it is it's curving, it's creating a gap because of the curve, and I want to fill in that gap to straighten it out. Ta-da! Nice and tall. All right, I'm going to do the second one, exact same idea. It's just a slightly smaller tree, so it's not going to be as wide at the bottom, but we're doing the same technique. I'll just paint along with that as I'm chatting with chat here. Tap, 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 tap. I'm going to do this one a little faster just because I have done a bunch of trees for you to see now, but again, take your time. I'll leave some time after I'm done for you to catch up. It is a Bunpaints original. Yes, it is. Every painting that I teach Santi is all my original work. I think that's very important. I absolutely use inspo from others. In fact, I should shout out who I used inspo for this one from. It's Tina's Diary on Instagram. I think there's 2 eyes in Tina. She had beautiful, again, in gouache paint, snowy landscapes that I absolutely used to kind of learn from. She had the beautiful kind of like chunks of snow that these ones mimic. And I used some of her designs when I was kind of thinking of my own. I, of course, changed it a lot, but yeah. Shout out Tina's Diary for sure. She has a whole collection of beautiful snowy scapes, a whole collection of just beautiful gouache paintings in general. And I feel like she had little snippets of her process, but again, using gouache paints on her Instagram. So if you're interested in seeing her version, definitely check her out. There we go. Oh, see, this one's very thin. So again, sometimes I just get into the groove of making it and then I look back, I go, oh, what is this? Very thin tree. See how it just kind of starts to angle out and then it doesn't anymore? So if your tree's looking like that and you're saying what's wrong with it, again, nothing wrong. You just got to add a little more. So to fix this one, I'm just going to extend these branches that are on the bottom edge here further out so it gets more of a triangular shape. So starting about here, start to bring them out further. And now we can see triangular. Same on the other side. Triangular. That's all it took. And then I'm going to bump a little more in the middle here. Hooray! Okay, just a minute or two in case anyone's catching up on adding trees. Again, I'll be adding a glow next, and then we'll start to add some nice pockets of snow. We might even do the sun first just to let this dry a little bit because I can see some chunks are still quite wet. If you want to ensure you'll have a nice dry surface, you could take off some of those chunks that you left behind or just smooth them out with your brush. So with no extra paint, just kind of smoothing them away, that'll help it dry a lot quicker. But again, if you like that texture, you can just wait for it to dry. It might take some extra time, but worth it for the texture. Although I do feel like the texture really comes in with the snow we're going to add anyway. This is just the base, remember? Cool. I can catch up on chat now. Evidence is required. I can't provide it. Anyway. Oh, you completed today. Not a Syria, one of the earlier games. Oh, okay. They just threw in a number then. Killer 7 is one of the most bizarre, hard to explain. Also, the wall's weird and big games on Earth. Fun! Love games like that. Oh, is it, Jamie? Even after adding some black to it? You could try adding a little white. I know it kind of seems silly because it'll turn a little pinky, but just a tiny bit might make a big difference. Feel free to try that if it's still causing you trouble. Saw a painting of a simple scene and thought I need some easy to interpret art after that one. Like it was too simple, you mean? I wanted to understand more about what people find fun about horoscopes. I just think it's funny to see if like they relate to me. Because sometimes they are so broad, Luke, that I'm like, oh yeah, totally, my day is going that way. Or like some of the personality traits of me as a Taurus, I think do kind of line up. But I do understand that a lot of them are very broad, and I think that's kind of intentional, I should say. Luke, I'm glad you like it so much. Yeah, let me actually find her Instagram. You said it sounds Finnish. I wonder. I'd love to properly show you and shout her out here. Oh, I said two eyes, not two. Tina, there she is. Yeah, it is two eyes. Tina's diary, but two eyes and Tina. Here, look at that. Look at that. Avert your eyes. Yeah, maybe you're right, Razor. I'm not sure. I don't know where she's from. I just know I love her paintings. Yeah, beautiful like flowers and fields and things like that when it's springtime. She really, I find, posts depending on the season, which I think is cool. Bob Ross method, no such things as mistake, just happy act. Exactly, that are just fixed or just like altered, added to. Yeah, I like that terminology a lot better. Non-scientific thing is not what for people and it's how people definitely, yeah. And I think it's just like the excitement of finding like connections and things that are similar, saying so true, you know? It's kind of fun. Okay, Luke, I can't wait to see it. Chappie, hey, welcome in. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry, Stanty. I thought you were saying you were viewing art that was too complex recently. Yes, I gotcha. Yeah, this is more just no real thinking needed. Definitely. Oh, sounds good. Yeah, go have some eats. No problem. Absolutely. Happy to do so. Oh, there you go. Maybe you were right, Razor. Todd says, believe there's a Finland flag on her Instagram. There you go. Ta-da! But yeah, beautiful art. Check her out. Gouache paints, gouache paints. Okay, on to the final steps here. So we're going to add that nice glow I kept talking about. Even though we are covering the base of these trees with all of our snow, you can kind of see in the original here, there's still some pieces that are popping out underneath those chunks of snow. So I think that is important to give that nice glow. And again, that is something that I saw in Tina's painting. She used the shadows and even like altered the color of the shadow depending on where the light source was coming from, and it made it look like it was glowing from within, and I really wanted to replicate that. So I'm going to put some red again on the edges that are going to be closest to the sun. So if the sun is here, that's going to be this edge on the left, this edge on the left, and then this edge on the right, this edge on the right, right, right. Taking my brush, grabbing just plain red paint this time. And I know Jamie in chat here was saying the red is very transparent. I find my red to be kind of transparent. It's not as bad as the yellow. But if you know your red paint is very transparent, I know it's going to sound pretty wild, but you could add a little white to it, and I'll do it just to demonstrate. I know technically that makes it a little pink, but if you add just a touch, you know, I feel like you could still pass it as more of a I just dropped a little paint. I gotta save that. That can be that can still classify as a red. You know, it's just a very very deep pink slash red. But the white should help with transparency. So again, feel free to add that if you think that'll help you. Otherwise, just a big chunk of red paint is good. And I'm just once again adding that on the side that is closest to the light source. So just kind of tapping that on. It doesn't need to blend in. If anything, we want it to rest on top. And I'm kind of just, you know, lightly tapping in the middle here to kind of fade it out a little bit, just so it's not a very harsh line, but at the same time, again, we will be adding snow on top, so it really doesn't need to be perfectly blended or anything. It's more important that I'm just adding this nice bright glow on the side closest to the light source. Right on top. So kind of tapping, I'm almost like squiggling it on. You can see I'm just making sure there's lots of paint being added here. Squiggling, wiggling, whatever. Doing the big one first just so you can really see. Again, maybe doing a quick little tap along the middle just to kind of fade it out. But yeah, you can see very half-half, and that's fine. I just want to check. Oh yeah, a little paint drop. I'm going to save that real quick. You're doing that same thing to each tree. You don't need to worry about the background ones. If you want to add lots of detail, you could add maybe a little red closer to the sunshine, but I'm just going to leave mine personally. Saved. Do, 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 do. Oh. Crazy sound. Maybe the flag is showing up for Todd, but not you, Razor. I know that issue happens to me on desktop versus mobile. And like the FI will show up sometimes rather than the emoji. But yeah, sounds like either way we agree she is Finnish. So good call. You got it. Okay, grabbing more red, just continuing that same idea, strategy. Left-hand side of this tree. And then on the left-hand trees, we want to do the right side. Again, it was a mouthful to say before, but now it makes a little more sense now that we can see it. The right on the left-hand trees, the left on the right-hand trees. You can see very messy with it, to the point where sometimes even a little red kind of pops off of the dark rusty red we already put down. And that's okay. That'll, if anything, show a little bit of a brighter red. They'll create the same effect, a nice glow. You might even intentionally want to do that here and there. So adding red just off of the darker red we've already applied creates a very bright, like right there. That's the red kind of moving on top of the orange and it stays very bright. So if it happens accidentally, I would call that a very happy accident. In its truest form. Cool. Again, I'm just going back and smoothing things out just for the sake of drying time. But again, take your time, no rush. I'm just trying to make this a time length that isn't too long. There. Nice, right? It'll look even nicer when the snow's on top. So just leaving a minute or two for both catching up and for drying time. I think next we will do the sunshine just to give a little extra time for those colors to dry. And then finishing off with the snow. For the sun, I will be finally using the small round brush. It's the only reason why I mentioned it today was for the sunshine. Again, you can always use it for other elements if you'd like to add anything to your trees. Use it to fix up particular areas, but really I'll just be using this for the sun. So I'll be adding a nice, very light yellow circle, and then I'll teach you how to do some little rays coming out too. I did do some little dry brushing to get some little sun rays coming out as well. I think I need a little more white paint here. All my paint chunks start in the same area, and then as I paint, they all start to move around me. I have one at my foot, I have two on my desk now, I have two over here. I don't know why I can't keep it together. Just keep them in order. Here's some out of yellow as well. Where's my yellow paint at? Not there, not there. Is it over here? Yes, it is. Okay, so yeah, I'm getting yellow paint because our sunshine will be kind of like a super light yellow color. A buttery yellow, if you will. Ooh. I'll teach you about that right now. Okay, so sunshine time. As mentioned, I'll repeat again, I'm switching to the very teeny tiny round brush. And on my palette, I'm mixing together white with just a little bit of yellow. So it's again like a very buttery yellow, very light yellow. I just think it looks a little warmer than just straight white, you know? You could definitely use straight white, and I think you would argue that's like the proper thing to do. When you're painting the light source itself, that's like the only time you should be using a pure white, apparently. I'm sure I break that rule all the time. But yeah, I just like to still add a little bit of a warm glow to it personally, so you can see it almost looks white, but there is a little bit of yellow in there. Zyko, hey, simply absurd. On a Sunday? Okay, so just a little bit is needed. We don't want to load it too much and get too messy. I'm just picking anywhere just above the horizon line, anywhere kind of middle right. If anything, I actually intentionally placed it right near the branches because I liked the idea of it kind of poking through the branches, so I'm going to try and do that again. So it's a little off center. I started small here and I kind of swirled around to make my circle slightly bigger until I have a size I want. Not going for anything huge here. Oh, that's kind of oval, isn't it? That's what you get for looking from the side. Always look at your canvas straight on, unlike me. It's better. I did the pixel art equivalent of painting over something. I wonder if that still helps, because then you have the shape and you're just like re-adding the color on top. I'm really curious what yours is looking like, Luke. We will see. Yeah, Anna, welcome in. Yeah, I haven't done one of these in a while, but I used to do them all the time, and I got some requests to bring it back. So I did for this particular painting, and maybe I'll think of other ones to do in the future. Welcome in. Yeah. No, you can do what you want. Chat isn't on screen. I'll just whip by announcing the chats if I feel like it. Channel points are off. Like, you can't do much, so it's okay. No noise activated channel alerts for now, except for, I guess, follows and whatnot. Okay, and then if we want to add some little beams coming off of the sun, which I personally like, I'm just going to add a little more yellow to the color I was just using. Just again, because we want our light source to be incredibly light. Anything outside of the light source should be a little darker. So just adding a little more yellow to make it a little technically darker, even though yellow is a light color. See comparison here. And to add these nice kind of light beams, we want to be using the smallest amount of paint possible. So I'm just going to bring over I was going to say paper towel, it's technically a Kleenex, to wipe my brush onto. So it really gets rid of most of the paint from the brush. And then just incredibly lightly, kind of like we were doing with the clouds, we were lightly swirling. This time we're just going to lightly drag the brush from the sunshine. And it should leave behind this very, very transparent streak. It looks almost like rough in texture as well, because it's just kind of hitting those top bumps of the canvas. Grab a little more paint, tap it off, add another streak. I'm kind of doing a couple beams. You could think of it that way as well, beams of light. And at the ends of the beams, I'm kind of flicking so that it doesn't abruptly stop. It kind of just fades away. So pressing a little harder and then flicking at the end makes it look like it's kind of just drifting off and disappearing. Let's see, I got some beams coming down here. Yeah, the light can kind of peek over the horizon line, so you can bring them down a little bit. If you bring them to the side where the tree is, I would stop the beams. They wouldn't really go in front of the tree. I think they would kind of go behind. So you can kind of fill the gaps a little bit, but I wouldn't go over top of the branches. And yeah, do as many or as little of these as you like. I think just a few is good. Maybe I do a couple small guys to fill in some gaps. But yeah, I really like the streakiness of this. The more distinct beams and trails coming from the sun. Oh, for streaking, yes, we love that joke. It's the only time we're allowed to streak on Twitch is with painting. Otherwise, we could be banned. No clothing streaking. Or watch streaks, that's allowed as well. Okay, okay. We'll see. We are nearing the end, so you have limited time. I'm just adding a second coat to my sun. I found that it turned a little transparent, so just adding another little bit of paint there makes it a little brighter. Cute. All right, just gonna give that a minute or two, and more so a minute or two for our paint to continue to dry, and then we can throw on some snow. So the snow, just to give like a heads up of what's to come, it's going to be kind of the same step 3 times, just using 3 different colors. We start as usual with our darkest color, and then we'll lighten it up again. I'll talk about placement as we're doing it, but you kind of just place those colors on top of one another, similar to what we were doing on the ground. Just, yeah, placing it a little differently each time. the third lightest color we'll add the least amount of, and that will be more centralized on the side that is closest to the sun to really give a nice highlight. And you'll start to see that if you start to look at the reference there. You can see how the lighter bits are once again on the insides of the trees, similar to where the red is. You clean your brushes on your clothes, Chappie. I feel like I've never done that intentionally, maybe unintentionally. Even though I do wear clothing that I don't mind getting paint on. I try my best to use my paper towels. Here's the thing, because if I were to use the clothing, this would just, it would be the end for me. Hair would need to be chopped off because it would turn all plasticky once the acrylic dries. So I gotta be more careful. Unfortunately. Okay, almost there. So for these next steps, the last few steps, we are using the medium round brush again. So if you haven't, you should probably wash that off. Your water's probably looking pretty muddy right now, at least mine is. You can't always change the water, of course, no rule against that. But I find as long as you're really wiping it on a paper towel, your brush is pretty good to go. It gets all the dirty water back out and then it's pretty clean. Let me just get more white on my palette and then I'm good to go. Your beard gets colorful. Yeah, I'd be scared because like once the paint dries, it kind of turns plasticky and I don't know if I could like soak it out of my hair. I can soak it out of material decently well, but even sometimes that gets a little troublesome. I'd really hate to risk it and get plasticky hair out of it. All right, so let's start by mixing, as I said, our darkest snow color. These colors are going to be super similar to what we were just using on the ground here. We're just going to make them a little lighter. We're going to start with a nice dark one, though. We're going to start with the dark purple blue that we started with on the bottom here. So as a reminder, that was mixing blue and red together with just a little bit of white. Excuse me. And again, you can change this color. I just think the nice purple blue is a good one to try out, but I've seen many versions of, you know, this layering of color for snow, and you can make it more pink leaning, more just like plain blue leaning rather than this purple blue that I've got going. I hesitate to say yellow, but like golden color, we just want to avoid the yellow snow effect. Looking a little like some dogs maybe marked their territory. But yeah, definitely some golden colors like we did already, right? Maybe a little more blue. Okay. So again, this should be pretty dark. This is our first color of 3. A nice dark base. Oh, small f. I'll repeat. Here's the color we're going for. It was red, blue with a little bit of white mixed in. So it lightens up a bit, but it's still pretty dark. Again, this is the first color of 3, and we're only getting lighter from here, so we want to make sure we have lots of opportunity to make our bluish purple lighter. Or back, I assume. Luke, yeah, looks like it. Okay, so yeah, on my medium round brush, I've got this paint color ready. I'm going to start applying these chunks of snow. So we have our nice shape of the tree that we can follow, and that's what I'm going to do is follow the shape of the branches in the tree. I'm just going to apply these chunks of snow in very like defined sections. So I feel like in the past when I've done snow on trees, I've kind of like tapped it on, you know, just like I would of the branches. I kind of tap the snow on top of the branches, on the tops of the branches, excuse me. You know, lightly, a little more like feathery, a little more transparent. These ones, we want them to be thick. We want them to be very defined, kind of like oval shaped and following the shape of the tree. So here I go. I'll start on the top here with just some small little blotches. So kind of following the direction of our branches Again, that kind of downwards angled motion here. And I'm not putting it on every single branch, I'm leaving some gaps. It might be a little dark to see right now, but as I get lighter, it'll be a lot easier. And literally just covering what we've already put down. So you can see I kind of like starting from the middle for the most part. This will change as I get further down, but for the most part, I start from the middle. And I just lay down a thick amount of paint, kind of wiggling a little bit out to the left or out to the right. And creating these kind of like oval shapes. They almost look like slugs. You can start very sparse if you want and then decide if you want to add more. That might be a good idea rather than adding a bunch to begin and then thinking that you maybe loaded it up a little too much. They all don't need to be long strokes as well. You can mix it up and add some very small ones as if maybe there's just a small chunk, hanging on the edge of a branch. And as I get further down, you have more space to work with. So rather than just continuing from the middle and out and creating longer and longer strokes, you can now maybe go from the middle and come down a little bit more, as if there are some branches coming towards us, right? Rather than all of them coming out to the left or right. Maybe some of them are coming out this way. So we want to showcase that by maybe coming down with our snow, as if it's coming down and out towards us. Nice way to fill up the middles a bit more. And again, maybe just some smaller strokes here and there. You can see I'm reloading my brush almost either every stroke or every other stroke, and that's to keep them very defined, very clean. If you try and scrape a small amount of paint off, you won't get these very defined oval shapes or slug shapes. They will start to be a little more choppy. The edges will be a little more rough. So yeah, going kind of down and out a little bit. Maybe some just hanging on edges of the branches rather than coming all the way from the middle. And sometimes I like to like beef some of them up. It looks like they're all kind of the same width right now, but maybe I go back and I thicken some of them. So I just like add a little extra to the bottom or top of the stroke as if it's a larger pile. A little chunkier. But yeah, nice, very unique effect. I was describing earlier that I feel like for the most part I always tap on snow or I want to make it look like a dusting, and since moving out west I feel like, at least if I'm in the mountains, not as much in the city, but in the mountains, the snow really piles up just like this. It really just like sticks all together in big chunks and continues to do that, and you can kind of see the tree itself through those little gaps. But the snow itself stays in these nice big pockets, Yeah, especially on like ski hills and stuff. So really mimicking, yeah, what I see myself. Okay, so that's one. And again, it does look very dark right now, but we gotta trust that it'll lighten up with our other layers. I'm just gonna do the same thing on all our other trees now. The medium ones will go a lot quicker because you don't have as much space to cover and you can just do smaller little chunks. Pretty quick and easy. So I'm just taking same amount of paint, just touching a little lighter so that it's not coming off in as big of a stroke, but doing the same exact thing, just kind of covering up small bits of the tree all the way to the top. Same for this guy. Again, doing a couple that kind of come down rather than out. This is wide enough that it can handle some of those. I do see an ad break is on, so I won't do anything new in the next 3 minutes. I'm just adding the same thing for those who can hear me. I'll wait till that's over before we do the next color. Cute. I don't believe I added any, oh, maybe I did to the very background ones. Like the tiniest little dusting though. So this is kind of what I was describing earlier, taking a color and just kind of tapping it on a bit. Just a bit. I'm not doing the big chunks or any particular technique here, just adding a little snow. And then I'll do the same with the other colors too. Oh, Bob quote. Water's like me. It's lazy. Boy, it always looks for the easiest way to do things. It's a good way to think of it. It wants the easiest way out at all times. If not, it'll make its easiest way out. It'll form the little river it needs to get to where it wants to go. Probably down. Oh, and one other thing I'll point out, which I will repeat in another minute and a half here, they don't all of these chunks don't need to be one solid like line. They can kind of create V shapes as well. I kind of go back sometimes and I'll, here's a big line right here. I'll make it into more of a V shape and kind of bring it down to the left as well. As if the snow is kind of piling between two branches that are going out like this, right? Maybe the snow kind of piles up and then comes outwards on both of those branches. It doesn't necessarily just need to be on one. So yeah, if you feel like you have some gaps you want to fill up, that might be a good way rather than adding a whole new stroke. Just creating a little tip on one of your strokes by adding a V shape. The other thing I do recommend when doing things that are more like defined strokes like this, where you're using lots of paint continuously, is to sometimes wash off your brush. It's something you wouldn't think of doing, I think, because you're using the same color over and over again, but sometimes washing out the brush is good just to get the shape back as well. After piling on so much paint and just like blobbing it on, the brush will really start to flare out and it becomes a little more frustrating to use. So washing it off really helps get the shape back. I think the ads are done for you on Twitch. Welcome back. I didn't really do anything new. I said a couple extra tips for adding the snow, but we've just continued the same idea all along every tree here. You may have missed that I did say that I did add a tiny sprinkle onto the background trees here, but nothing very defined like I was doing in the foreground. The only other thing I mentioned was maybe making some V shapes. I'm saying V. Using some of the strokes you already made. So if you want to, fill in a little more of a gap rather than making a brand new stroke that's separate, you can kind of use the existing stroke and make a V shape out of it by extending a different way. And I think that looks nice because it makes it look like the snow is piling on top of like two branches that are kind of separating from one another. You can really see it in the original over there. Some V shapes. So feel free to do that. Otherwise, I think that's enough time. We can add the next color here. So very simple. Now that we've placed our little blotches of snow, all we need to do is add on top of those blotches. So we've already made all the tough decisions of like where to put the blotches. We're just adding to them now. So I'm washing off my brush just for the sake of reshaping it. We don't need it totally clean. It's more just to get like the big chunks of paint out of the paintbrush to get a nicer shape again. And on my palette, I'm simply adding more white paint to the color I was just using. So that was that purpley blue color. I'm making a nice light version of that, keeping in mind I want to make one more version after this that's even lighter. So yeah, just a chunk of white in there, making it a nice light version. Okay, and all we're going to do with this is we're going to add it on top, as in on top and a little above each of the strokes we've already made, so that we're not completely overlapping all the work we just did. We're just adding to it. So we're adding this lighter color on top and above those strokes we've already put down. So as if those piles of snow are catching a little bit of extra light right on the tip tops of them. And it helps us as the viewer see them a little bit clearer. They're not quite as dark anymore. Yeah, just following those shapes you've already made. I'm purposely not trying to blend, I'm just trying to get a nice distinct stroke. So I am once again using lots of paint every time, applying it very lightly on top so it just kind of glides on top. Same idea though, kind of these shaky, like slug worm looking shapes. Not a more appealing way to say it, it really is slug-like or worm-like. So just along any top edge. You can see mine's blending a touch, and that's okay. I'm trying to get it as clean as possible. And once again, to bring it back to our gouache discussion, this is kind of the effect that gouache was giving when I was using it for this type of painting. The gouache dries, believe it or not, I would say even quicker than acrylic does. So it allows you to just pile right on top, as you can see, very cleanly, creating this very cool layered effect, like clean layered effect. And I try and hit every single blob. I'm sure you could leave a couple just nice and dark and that's okay, but I like highlighting each one. I don't want to forget any of them. They all deserve a moment. See what a difference that makes with that second color? Now we can really see all those nice blobs of snow coming through. And it'll only get better with that last light version of the color we're using. If this brush, by the way, is too thick for these medium-sized trees, just switch down to a smaller brush. I'm trying to just use the tip of my brush, but I do see it's a little troublesome at points. Just not as clean, you know? But things further away can be a little messier too, right? They're getting a little blurry, a little further away from our eyesight. Kyle Lee, hey, welcome. We're just finishing up a little paint along here with the last little stages. If this interests you to paint along with, though, I'll be posting it to YouTube sometime this week. Hopefully. But in the meantime, if you have any questions about this, feel free to ask. Otherwise, enjoy watching along. But yeah, and hopefully you can see what I was saying before, that, you know, obviously we want to get nice shapes in our trees when we were adding, you know, the rusty reds and all that, but with these hunks of snow, it really just kind of erases a good chunk of the work we did. Like all the branches really do start to combine a little bit more while also staying separated because of the snow itself. But it's almost like a good way to practice trees in that case, because you're not left with a very bare bones ending of the tree. Bare bones result, I guess. You're left with these snowy chunks kind of being the final layer. So really just the basic shape of the tree is left by the end. And again, if you want to dust this color on the very background trees just super lightly, feel free. I'm just tapping very lightly with a little bit of paint on my brush. I'm not trying to do any specific branches or chunks, just a little light tap. Cute. Man, my yellow really disappeared there. I feel like I could go back and add some light yellow just compared to my original. Kind of blended in a bit. Maybe I needed more white paint in there, who knows. Yeah, and that goes for all of you. If you're coming to the end of your painting, you're spotting things you want to maybe try again with, alter again, you can always do that. That's one of the benefits of having that quick drying time, is that you can just go right on top again, try again. There's none of this, you know, waiting for things to dry hours later. You just pop right on top again. Okay, and again, not to rush anybody through, but I'm just going to go ahead with the third step here because it's very similar to the other steps and it just kind of tops off the painting here. We're reaching 2.5 hours after all those drops in the stream, so just to keep it a little bit of a tighter time, I'll finish up with our last step. So last step, of course, is just making a lighter version of the color we just used. So lots of white this time, mixing it on top of the color we were just using to get a very, very light pale version of that purpley blue. Almost like a lavender color now, even lighter than that, really. The last, you're so right. Great, so remind me, the last step is signing it. Actually, the bonus last step. The surprise last step. So the only difference with this one, we're still adding these chunks on top and above of our previous chunks. The only difference is now we're only going to keep to the one side that's closest to our light source. So on this big tree here, we're just going to keep these strokes on the left-hand side. See how bright and light they are? Ooh. And that's really going to, again, showcase the light kind of bouncing off of that one side because of the light source being right here. Wow. Ooh, ah. And yes, you could get technical and say, Aaron, the light probably wouldn't wrap around to the middle here. That's okay. Cue the Bob quote about, it's your world, do what you want. Yeah, I just mostly just stick to the left-hand side. I'm not going to get technical and talk about where the light can wrap around and stuff. I just like the look of having this left-hand side very highlighted and the right-hand side a little more shadowy. So literally anything to the left of center is what I highlight. Ooh. See, everyone's telling me the sign paintings thing. Chad is on it. I've taught them well. Remember to switch sides when you go over to the left-hand trees. You want to be on the right-hand side for these highlights. Again, just anything closest to the sun. You can see, sometimes you can even just dot on new little clumps with this light color. They don't necessarily need to be right on top of something that already existed. Maybe there's a tiny extra bit at a tip here and there. No hard rules, just have fun. And same idea, remember we were talking about the clouds like clumping up and how to separate them with the pink? Similar to these trees, these guys got a little tight together, but this nice highlight kind of re-separates them because you're only concentrating on the right-hand side, and then you have the dark left-hand side of this next tree, highlight the right-hand side, decide which one's in front, which one's behind, and that'll all work out nicely. See, I just can't resist. I just want to highlight the whole thing, but I'm trying. Cute. And the edges. We did. Ah, you know, I did well with the first half as always. I don't even want to show it. Up till about here. Right down here, I forgot. Probably over here too. Yeah, I guess that's true. Todd points out you could have light in different areas. Maybe it's moonlight. We don't know where the moon is in this painting, but maybe it's over here somewhere. Very true. Or maybe there's water by the tree and the sun is reflecting off it, casting light. For sure. These are all your beautiful worlds. You're so right. Yeah, that is the one thing we're kind of well, not missing, but I could have added some water element. Maybe another time. Anyway, that's the painting. Yay! And as chat was pointing out, we do have one last step, a very important step, which is signing it. I find signing it just solidifies it as done, because if I know we all have trouble with calling it done, of course, and once you sign it, you gotta say, that's it! It's complete. So I will unstick it from my easel. There we go. And do a little bun. A little crusty bread roll. I'll put Erin. Yay. And now I can't touch it. Legally. I will go to jail if I touch it again after signing it. Yay! Yay for no jail. Cool! Alright. Have fun, yes. Thank you again, Twitch chat specifically, for riding through me with all those little glitches, the frame rate dropping, whatever you want to call it. I'm hoping that'll be fixed the next time we get together for a little paint along. Anyway, again, YouTube, you shouldn't have a lot of that trouble, so that's good. I'll do some editing. I usually wrap things up by saying a few things. Let me see if I can remember. Yeah, me going to jail after I've touched my painting. There we are, colorized 2025. Yeah, just to wrap up for YouTube, for the little YouTube video, I'll just say thanks for watching, as always. Watching helps support me, watching live helps support me, all of it, so appreciate you painting along and appreciate you just like being creative and having a good time painting. If you want more of these tutorials, of course, I have lots on the YouTube channel. Feel free to search through. I have like 5 years worth at this point. I think we're over 100. I always cite it as over 100. So yeah, lots to look from or look through. As I was kind of saying as we were painting, I anticipate doing some more of these throughout the year. I just don't know anything consistent in terms of like once a month or whatever, but I think just as ideas come, I'll make more of a point to try and turn it into a step-by-step, because I do really enjoy doing these. I've been doing these for so long, and it's good memories for me, and I think there's a lot of you out there that still enjoy them, which is very encouraging to me, so I do want to keep doing them, so look out for that. Always will be live on Twitch doing that. I guess keep an eye on the Facebook page. That's usually where I announce these tutorials before they happen so that you can watch along live if you prefer that method. Thank you, Gray, in the chat is all my socials there. For YouTube, all of my socials, if you want to see what I'm doing outside of tutorials and outside of YouTube, you can look me up at erinbunpaints pretty much anywhere. Instagram is where I kind of showcase all of my art, kind of like a portfolio of sorts. Obviously, I keep mentioning Twitch. Twitch is where I live stream, and I do that a few times a week. I'm not always doing step-by-step tutorials, of course, but I'm usually creating either custom commissions that I've been hired to paint, or just my own artwork that I intend to usually sell. So yeah, just an opportunity for you to watch me paint something a little more difficult, and you can always ask me questions while I'm painting, and I'm always happy to answer and kind of talk you through my thought process and what I'm doing. Other socials, I don't know, yeah, Facebook, I feel like those are my popular ones. We have a Discord if you want to be a little more in touch, but yeah, all of those on there. Thank you, Gray. And yeah, I think that's all. So just to wrap up again for YouTube, thanks for watching, and see you at the next one. Bye!